All right. There we go. Oh, been a minute, everybody. How's everyone doing? I see we got a few people who are here now. Mitch Ashdown, I think Ozzy Bugga, Susa, a few folks who were here earlier who might be back in a bit. I was stuck at a CPR course that went longer than expected. Whew. My Saturdays just my Saturdays and weekends in general just have been busier than I like. Um, but we're not going to stop with our streams because it's too important, in my opinion. All right, Salt of the Red Earth is here. Welcome back, everybody. All right, so we're going to jump right into the news. We'll go for like an hour or so today. Um, man, I'm still looking for a co-host or assistant for the channel whenever someone is available and has the time or interest. Uh, just because, actually, probably within the next. I'm really hoping within the next 2 to 3 months. Several things I've been crazy busy and involved with will calm down a bit. And when that happens, I'm really hoping to get well plugged in and with a few new groups and start doing some bigger fundraisers and do a lot more with this channel. So thanks for coming back every week, everybody. Thank you for continuing to support Ukraine because it is too important not to remain consistent on this topic, whether it's something small or something huge. Everyone, we all got to do our part. So thank you for doing your part and being here today and supporting soldiers. And not just with Ukraine, also with Taiwan, because as you may recall from our last stream, we have a fundraiser now for a civil defense group in Taiwan. That is something that is very likely to heat up before too long in the years to come. We are in a thawing world that is going from turning to a multipolar order, and a lot of regional bullies starting to try to throw their weight around, seeing movements of either established authoritarian regimes in places like Russia and China, or regimes trying to establish themselves, and we'll see what happens in places such as the United States currently with Donald Trump. All I can say is thank you for being on the right side of history and standing up against tyrants, because that's what we do around here. All right. Oh, Ozzy Bugga asked, what would you like from a co-host? I mean, it's really pretty straightforward. Like, I'm trying to make more time to make videos and step away from some other projects I've been busy with so I can focus more on the channel. It would be more like today, for example. I was going to stream in the early morning US time, and then that had to be pushed back to noon, and then that had to be pushed back again to now. And that's just because I had so many other commitments that I had to take care of. Basically, it would be like someone who kind of like when I was a co-host for Rick, someone who can jump on and just kind of, once a week talk, engage everybody as an audience. And then if they're not available, I'll do it by myself. If I'm not available, then they could do it by themselves. Basically, just like it sounds. Basically, it sounds like everything that I usually do when I am a host for the streams, except a second person who could help out with that. But either way, regardless, I'm going to keep doing this with or without a co-host. And we are going to keep this channel going. All right. All right. Let's jump right into the news, because we've got not so great news. We've got other good news that is pretty good. We've got confusing news, chaotic news. We got a couple of things to cover. So we're going to start with the bad, and then we're going to shift over to the good. Hold on. Let me pull up one thing. All right, we'll start with this. Copy. I'm going to put the first article into chat right now. Mitch Ashton says, it is history, that much is sure. Everything that's going on right now. Yeah, there's a lot happening. Alright, so there's the first article, and let's go ahead and get started. PRC is already poking Western Pacific now that Uncle Sam slumbers. Japan is in a quandary. Yeah. I mean, when the cat's away, the mice shall play. Except in this case, it's more like a really, really big rat, while the cat is slowly becoming incredibly sick and less active from years of unhealthy diet and sickness from within. So, yeah, China is a problem because the U.S. is stepping back from some of its duties. All right, let's see here. Share. Where'd you go? Oh, and also let me make sure my volume is where it needs to be. Good, it looks like it is. All right. Info cap. Where are you? There you are. All right. All right. Draft. U.S.-Ukraine rare earth minerals deal not one President Zelensky would accept, source says. So, as many of us, I'm sure, are aware, the current man-child in the United States White House has basically been attempting to... I don't know, he's been doing a lot of things, but with regards to Ukraine, he's been attempting to strong-arm a deal that would be quite... It would not be beneficial really at all to Ukraine, and instead would commit a very large amount of natural resources from Ukraine to the United States. Basically, it's not a good deal. It's something that is very clearly him just trying to offer up some kind of, well, I made an offer to Ukraine and they said no, when economically speaking it would be completely nonsensical for Ukraine to accept this deal. But basically, it's something that, in my opinion, would make Ukraine, put Ukraine in a very tight spot, economically speaking, very dependent on the U.S. long term. Um, but also, given the lack of trust between Trump specifically and Ukraine, it's not something that for geopolitical dealings, it's not really something that you expect someone to say yes to when you haven't actually engaged in diplomacy, when you're just throwing out deals flippantly, um, basically like you don't care. Um, all right, let's see. Oh, are you serious? Okay, hold on. Oh, that's annoying. I have to refresh this because it didn't actually load the article. It only loaded the title. Uh, okay, hold on. 1 second, everybody. Come on. Oh, seriously. That's extremely annoying. Do I have to scroll all the way down? There it is. It's just covered in videos. Okay. A draft deal. Oh, no, that won't work. A draft deal between the United States and Ukraine over rare earth minerals and other natural resources is not the one President Zelensky would accept, according to a source familiar with the negotiations. It is a strange offer to try and take from a country that is a victim of war more than it costs to pay for its defense, the source told CNN. The U.S. is trying to gain access. Let me take these off real fast. The donation bars. The U.S. Is trying to gain access to Ukraine's critical minerals and other resources uh, as part of wider negotiations aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. In return, Ukraine has been pushing for security guarantees, with Kiev not only keen to see the return of lost territory, but protection against a possible future Russian invasion. Ukraine was not invited to talks between the U.S. and Russia and Saudi Arabia, and this week Zelensky and U.S. President Donald Trump have been locked in an escalating war of words. For good reason. Trump isn't someone to be trusted. I keep hearing from people, but there's no choice. There's no choice. You have to. You have to. He's the president. You have to, suck up to him. No. No, you do not. Okay, a deal could possibly be brokered because it is true. Unfortunately, engaging with Trump is a necessity because of the fact that he uh, is in the role of president in the White House for the United States. But yeah, at the end of the day, what is the point of a deal with a con artist who can't be trusted? Unless you have serious security guarantees and there's confidence in the fact that any deal brokered isn't going to be reneged upon, isn't going to be, isn't just going to be taken back. Yeah, it's a dangerous gambit to do business with Trump, in my opinion. Um, Trump falsely accused Zelensky of starting the Ukraine war while the Ukrainian leader hit back, saying the U.S. president lives in a disinformation space. Ukrainians are still trying to negotiate amendments because the current draft does not foresee any American obligations, while Ukraine is expected to provide everything, the source said. The source spoke after an official in the Ukrainian presidential administration told Ukrainian state broadcaster Suspline that there would be no signing of the agreement on rare earth metals Saturday. Work had continued on the document all night, but was held up by the issue of security guarantees, Suspline reported. The continued Ukrainian resistance to signing the deal in its current form comes after days of intense pressure from the Trump administration, whose national security advisor Mike Waltz even highlighted the case of an aluminum mine that could meet all the U.S.'s annual needs if refurbished with American investment. Also on Saturday, Ukraine's foreign minister Andriy Sybiha noted that he had spoken with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to continue the results-oriented Ukraine-U.S. dialogue. Ahead of the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale aggression, I understand Ukraine's strong will to achieve a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace, one that will strengthen Ukraine and the U.S. Earlier, a U.S. official told CNN's Nick Baton-Walsh the deal between the United States and Ukraine over rare earth metals and other natural resources is nearly done, but that it was not yet clear how any official signing of a deal might occur. The U.S. official said Kellogg's visit had led to very good meetings, sealing this for the President of the United States. All right, so there's a lot to unpack. Again, I don't really trust Trump. I see him as someone who will do and say anything that he thinks will, at least temporarily, get people off his back and make them happy. And I see him as someone willing to do a deal with the devil, with anyone. I mean, someone who would double deal, someone who would open up trade relations with pretty much any country under any circumstance, even if it was morally abhorrent, so long as there's something in it for him. But then again, I could keep going ad nauseum. We already are all aware of this with regards to Donald Trump. Oh, and I see there's conversation. Also, let me open up Q&A. Also, with regards to looking for a co-host, it would really, really help me. But also keep in mind that, like I said, within 2 or 3 months, I should have more free time. A lot of the things that have been absorbing my weekends will likely not be as pressing. So hopefully, even with or without a co-host, hopefully I'm going to be on top of this a bit more soon. But unexpected things happen in life, so yeah. Basically, just like when I was a co-host for Rick, I'm looking for a co-host for this channel. If anyone's interested, email me at tridentsagainst-tyrants@gmail.com, or let me know in chat, and we'll link up. All right. Anyway, pretty much all of us have been aware of this rare earth metals deal, and you know, my opinion is no secret on it. I'm not fond of it. I don't trust the architects of it from the American side who are associated with Donald Trump. But let's move on to the next article. And actually, well, we're going to end with good news, but we're going to start with, let's start with this one, because it's related to this. So this is from Reuters, and this really is just going to highlight the fact that Donald Trump is he's just an ignorant man-child who really doesn't understand global economics and geopolitics. He understands strong-arming people. He understands he understands Wall Street, stock market exchange tactics. He understands financial mafioso tactics. He understands authoritarian. He understands authoritarian forms of governance, whether it be within a government or within a corporation, meaning, a single strongman entity company versus one where all the workers have a vote that's unionized. He's, and when I say that, I mean like a single person makes a decision. I don't mean like a board of directors, like that's actually meant to represent everyone, even if it's not like a union company or whatever. I mean just like, no, one person owns everything, has all the power, makes all the decisions. That's what Donald Trump understands. Anyway, in reversal, Trump says Russia attacked Ukraine. Summary: Trump, Ukraine, quote, don't have any cards, but they're playing tough. Trump predicts a deal on critical minerals soon. Zelensky says he seeks a fair result in U.S. deal. And U.S. proposes UN resolution to mark Russia invasion. Washington, February 21st. Oh, awesome. Hey, yeah, Ozzy Bugga. Let's talk on Discord. Absolutely, man. Um, I mean, personally, I don't consider myself a master public speaker or anything like that at all. I'm just a guy, like many people covering the war. I'm just a guy who has a bit of experience doing a few things. In my case, I have a little bit of experience with international matters, with more countries than just Ukraine. But I'm not like a subject matter expert. I don't work for the CIA. I don't, uh, have an extensive military intelligence background or war analyst background or anything. I just want the conversation to continue so people remember, so people remain aware, and more people become aware about what's happening in Ukraine. So yeah, man, if I can do it, you can do it. Honestly, we'll talk more later. Anyway, all right. Trump. Let's see. Okay. President Donald Trump reversed course on Friday and said Russia did in fact invade Ukraine and that Kiev would soon sign a minerals agreement with the United States as part of efforts to end the Ukraine war. Trump had said on Tuesday that Ukraine, quote, should have never started the war 3 years ago, prompting a wave of criticism both domestically and internationally. Pressed on the subject in an interview with Fox News Radio on Friday, he acknowledged Russia had invaded Ukraine on the order of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Russia attacked, but they shouldn't have let him attack, Trump said, adding that Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky and then U.S. President Joe Biden should have taken steps to avert the invasion. So again, still more victim blaming. We're signing, later Trump predicted a minerals agreement would be reached soon. We're signing an agreement hopefully in the next fairly short period of time, Trump told reporters in the Oval Office when asked about a possible deal for Ukraine's minerals. Zelensky said separately on Friday that Ukrainian and U.S. teams were working on a draft agreement. I am hoping for a fair result, he said in a video address after sharp exchanges this week between the two leaders. Trump denounced Zelensky as a, quote, dictator, which is fucking hilarious coming from Donald Trump on Wednesday and warned he had to move quickly to secure peace with Russia, which invaded Ukraine nearly 3 years ago, or risk losing his country. I'm going to say this. Don't listen to Donald Trump. That is what I will say. Because there's a lot of stupid things that Donald Trump could do. There's a lot of stupid things that Donald Trump is going to do. But at the end of the day, Europe stands with Ukraine, with the exception of a few, uh, countries like Hungary. There's some news about Hungary regarding Ukraine recently that really shows that the leadership in Hungary and the Trump regime and his group of cronies are tight-knit buddies and also quite friendly with Russia. The change in tone from the United States, Ukraine's most important backer, has alarmed European officials, and stoked fears that Kiev could be forced into a peace deal that favors Putin. Zelensky has said Trump was trapped in a, quote, disinformation bubble, but later toned down his statements and said he was hoping for American pragmatism. I hate that so many world leaders, including Zelensky, feel like they have to be respectful or not call out Trump, not just directly insult him to his face like he deserves. It's an absolute, for the United States, let me make that clear. For the United States of America as a nation, it is an embarrassment the way Donald Trump conducts himself. Zelensky on Wednesday rejected U.S. demands for $500 billion in mineral wealth from Ukraine to repay Washington for wartime aid, saying the United States had supplied nowhere near that sum so far and offered no specific security guarantees in the agreement. That's true. Remember, the U.S. has assisted. It has assisted with a significant amount, but I'm fairly certain if we go back and look at it all, it has not been $500 billion worth. It has not been half a trillion. That's a lot, guys. That's not a fair deal. That is like that's like a Discover credit card. That's like, you know, the fucking mafia or loan shark crew down the street coming to your place and saying, "Yeah, we'll loan you what you need to get by at 1,000% interest with a 6-month repayment period. Otherwise, we're going to come back looking for what we can pry up from the floor." It's like, yeah, no. It's ridiculous. Um All right, Ukraine has valuable deposits of strategic minerals that the U.S. wants. These include uranium, lithium, cobalt, rare earths, and more, and are used in applications such as batteries technology and aerospace. And then this is talking, just like the other article. We'll finish the whole thing, just like the other article did about Trump's quote. All right. They don't have any cards. Speaking at a White House event earlier on Friday, Trump was critical of Zelensky while refraining from negative comments about Putin. And you're going to notice that a lot, probably. Because remember, this idiot is a puppet of this idiot. I've had very good talks with Putin, and I've had such good talks with Ukraine, Trump said. They don't have any cards, but they're playing tough. Separately, the United States on Friday proposed a United Nations resolution to mark the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The 3-paragraph U.S. draft, seen by Reuters, mourns loss of life during the Russia-Ukraine conflict and implores a swift end to the conflict. Kiev and its European allies want their own text to be adopted by the UN General Assembly on Monday, calling for de-escalation and early cessation of hostilities and peaceful resolution to the conflict. The German government said on Friday that Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Zelensky agreed in a phone call that Ukraine must have a seat at the table in peace talks. Polish President Andrzej Duda, meanwhile, urged Zelensky to keep up calm and constructive cooperation with Trump. Again, it frustrates me to no end. But then again, Trump isn't the first asinine person in international geopolitics that other world leaders have had to deal with. He's just probably one of the most obnoxious in recent decades in such a position of power. All right. Duda, whose term in office expires this year, was one of Trump's preferred international partners during his 2017-2021 presidency, and they have described themselves as friends. Poland's president is due to meet Trump in Washington on Saturday, Poland's state news agency PAP reported. All right. So, basically, what is this? I wish I could say that this is Trump really making a reversal in his statement, but it's not. It is a bit of confusion and chaos because he is the kind of person who will just do and say, like I said before, whatever he thinks he needs to get people on his side and to make his people happy. And in this case, his people will be happy if he, even to the slightest degree, seems like he's trying to be neutral and not play favorites between Russia or Ukraine, but still pretty obviously through his actions. Honestly, there's no subtlety to it. The only thing that would be a bigger slap in the face and more dangerous would be if this man, Donald Trump, were giving weapons to Russia and support to Russia instead of Ukraine. All that his allies are looking for is to put pressure to end the war on terms that are favorable to Putin. That is my opinion. And it's something that needs to be stopped. Now, I don't know if that's something that Americans themselves will be able to stop. Perhaps. But if they do, it's going to be a coalescing number of factors. You have to understand, if this is something that gets stopped by American citizens on American soil, through protest, through political opposition, through any other means, it's going to be something that involves pro-Ukraine Americans. It's going to be something that involves Americans who don't even pay attention to Ukraine at all, who are focused on domestic matters, like the fact that eggs are getting to where they cost more than $12 a frickin' dozen, 12 US dollars a dozen in various parts of the country. That planes are crashing left and right, more and more everywhere. That various blue-collar workers, citizens and non-citizens, documented and undocumented, are losing their jobs, are, losing benefits, are afraid to go to work. For some, out of fear of deportation. Or federal workers losing their jobs. An economy that could spiral in the future because of his decisions currently. The only way it's going to stop from Americans doing something is if multiple Americans who care about both foreign policy and domestic policy come together, say enough is enough, and actually do something about this madman. Now, will that happen? Hopefully. If you're an American and you're listening to this, get out there. Get involved. You need to be involved in two things. One, be involved in advocating for and helping Ukraine, which is what we do here. But remember, this isn't like, even though we do focus on Ukraine a lot primarily here, this is Tridents Against Tyrants, and that's a global statement. Get out there. Get involved. Get involved in domestic American matters and politics. Because at the end of the day, just like every other country in the world, you have to get the people who are pissed off about what's happening inside of their own country to come together if you're going to have enough of a critical mass to actually disrupt the kind of things that a man like Donald Trump wants to do. All right. Anyway, I think I've beaten the horse to death on this. Basically, expect more. What's the phrase I'm looking for? Expect more cognitive dissonance. Expect more confusing statements or mixed messaging from Trump. But at the end of the day, we all know what Trump is and where he stands. And we also know that Ukraine, despite going through absolute hell from ancient times all the way to being occupied by the Russian Empire, to being occupied by the Soviet Union, to being kind of swirling and kind of up until the Maidan, up until the Revolution of Dignity, unduly influenced by Russia within the Russosphere up until 2014. Despite all of that, Ukrainians have continued to exist as a people, and Ukraine has continued to exist as a nation, because a true nation, I want you all to remember this, does not exist on borders, it doesn't exist on maps, doesn't exist with a standing army, or it doesn't exist as a place. A nation exists as a people, as a community, and as those who are willing to come together to stand for their people and their nation. Tibet is an example of that. The Tibetan government in exile has no control over the lands of Tibet, and yet they still exist as a diaspora nation, one might say, the Tibetan nation outside of China. Ukraine in the past had diaspora organizations that existed and were in exile up until independence from the Soviet Union. And then, just like many other post-Soviet nations, several people returned home. And then the nation became established as an independent, recognized country with borders and a standing army and currency and all of that. So what's my point? My point is, Ukraine has been through hell and back. And even though this is not a good situation, because it is not, Ukraine will persevere. And even though this is not a good situation for Americans, the American nation will persevere. And this tyrant will not be allowed to stand indefinitely. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Let's go on to the next article. Oh, are we looking at Reuters? I mean, yeah. Hey, it's not Fox News, it's not One America News TV, and it's not Newsmax. So I have my issues with Reuters, but I also have my issues with Al Jazeera. I have my issues with CNN. I have my issues with MSNBC. I have my issues with like CTV in Canada. Uh, a lot of issues with them. Um, Reuters, it's not my first go-to for objectivity in certain cases, but in this case, I mean, what they're highlighting is the fact that Donald Trump is being an ass. That he really isn't he isn't really being unbiased. That he's even the wording in this article, if you really look at it, Russia attacked, but they shouldn't have let him attack, or what else is there? Denouncing Zelensky as a dictator, or you know, uh, other what else was it? Oh, they don't have any cards, but they're acting tough. Like they're making it. The author of this is making it very clear, whatever their feelings about Trump might be, that Trump basically stands where he stands, and it's definitely not from a pro-Ukraine stance. Um, and right here, Zelensky hoping for a fair result, and Zelensky accusing Trump of being in a disinformation bubble, which I 100% believe is true, because Donald Trump is appointing a QAnon believer to head the FBI and an anti-vaxxer to head, to basically be, what's the name of the position? To be a national director for matters related to healthcare within the United States. So yeah, no, like this right here is 100% accurate that Donald Trump lives in a disinformation bubble. So anyway, off topic. We're going to go to the next article. I'm not a fan of a lot of what Reuters puts out, and a lot of their authors have opinions that I strongly disagree with. But pay more attention to this. This was written by Nandita Bose and Steve Holland. Whenever you read from, with the exception of a few propaganda networks like Newsmax or Fox News, national Fox News for the U.S., some of the local level subsidiaries are slightly more reasonable. Pay attention to the author more so than the network is what I usually tell people. But anyway, let's continue. All right, next article. All right, this one's also. Well, this is also negative news, so it's not surprising that it's covered under Reuters, because again, their tone is not centrist or left-leaning. Reuters is a very more right-leaning publication. But I still want to highlight this because this basically just shows more of the problem that has to do with Trump and his circles, such as Musk. So let me put this into the chat. Let me take a look at some of the comments real fast. Oh yeah. Aussie Bugga. How are the opposition parties, human rights, and LGBTQI activists in Qatar doing? Yeah, exactly. Al Jazeera promotes Western values to its English version channel, but applies none of them at home in Qatar. That is 100%. A lot of people that I know on the left in places like the U.S. love Al Jazeera because they'll hear what they want to hear, because Al Jazeera legitimately does cover things that other news networks do not in the Western world and in the global South. There are things in South America about Argentina, for example, that they cover that no one else ever really bothers to talk about. And plenty of things that, critical coverage of the U.S. that other networks don't want to risk offending Americans, so they don't talk about it. So I do have respect for some of the journalists and some of the folks at AJ at Al Jazeera who do important work. As a network as a whole, though, it's based in Qatar. They will never, never, never severely criticize Islam or talk about the horrible human rights that ex-Muslim human rights uh, uh, man, I'm tired. It's been busy today. Human rights issues, human rights repressions that ex-Muslims will face in and outside of Muslim majority countries, including in the West. Never talk about. There are certain topics that are taboo for Qatar and for Al Jazeera and its subsidiaries to talk about, and then there are certain other things because geopolitically those nation states might be considered not enemies but rivals of some of their most important financial backers, home nations, that they are more than willing to put in the important work of being critical of those nations. So it's this weird. I have this weird love-hate relationship with Al Jazeera. I love some of the work they do, but I hate the motivation for doing it. Anyway, I got off topic. Let's get back to Ukraine. Exclusive. U.S. could cut Ukraine's access to Starlink internet services over minerals, say sources. Oh. And we're just going to cover this real quickly. Basically, this should be of no surprise to anyone because Elon Musk owns Starlink. Elon Musk is basically president of the United States because Donald Trump is just a puppet. Remember this, everybody. Donald Trump is a loudmouth, narcissistic puppet for other people smarter and richer than him. He is a politician. He is a failed businessman in most of his prior pursuits. The only reason he still has money or has been able to succeed in the things that he does is because he's emotionally able to capture the attention and sentiment of angry, disenfranchised, frankly, uneducated for some, and greedy for others, voters and financial supporters within the United States and abroad. Yeah, he's a man who independently fails at business ventures, but he's always been rich enough and come from an important enough family and had enough connections that remember. Does anyone recall there's an old phrase, an old quote that goes, I believe it's from Martin Luther King Jr. in the United States, that the United States is a country of socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor. Donald Trump has been bailed out of more shit than anyone else would be allowed to if they weren't from a circle worth billions like he is. Anyway, U.S. negotiators pressing Kiev for access to Ukraine's critical minerals have raised the possibility of cutting the country's access to Elon Musk's vital Starlink satellite internet system. Three sources familiar with the matter told Reuters. And anyway, all of that, the point of that was to say that Elon Musk is part of that circle of oligarchs worth billions. And that is why Donald Trump fails upward instead of crashing and burning as a political entity, despite being incompetent. It is oligarchical It is oligarchical, nepotistic, trust fund funded kakistocracy, rule of government by the least competent that we see right now in the United States. Ukraine's continued access to SpaceX-owned Starlink was brought up in discussions between U.S. and Ukrainian officials after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky turned down an initial proposal from U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the sources said. Starlink provides crucial internet connectivity to war-torn Ukraine and its military. The issue was raised again on Thursday during meetings between Keith Kellogg, the U.S. Special Ukraine Envoy, and Zelensky, said one of the sources, who requested anonymity to discuss closed negotiations. Oh, wait, no, who was briefed on the talks. Sorry, I was on the wrong line. And Zelensky said one of the sources who was briefed on the talks. During the meeting, Ukraine was told it faced imminent shutoff of the service if it did not reach a deal on critical minerals, said the source, who requested anonymity to discuss closed negotiations. Ukraine runs on Starlink. They consider it their North Star, said the source. Losing Starlink would be a massive blow. Unfortunately, this is true. Now, my understanding is that Ukraine has been exploring and working on alternatives to Starlink, because this is a point of vulnerability that's been apparent for a long while. Elon Musk was all gung-ho about, yeah, we're going to help Ukraine at the beginning when there was money and fame to be had in it. He pretty quickly made a 180 and started grumbling and complaining about it because it cost too much and his political allies were not fond of it. And then eventually, yeah, he's just gone onto the complete anti-Ukraine bandwagon ever since then, since 2022. Now, there are a few alternatives to Starlink. I don't know how viable they are because the majority of them are American-owned by some of the richest entrepreneurs in America. There's Starlink, owned by Musk. There's Project Kuiper, owned by Bezos, which is upcoming as a competitor to Starlink. That could be a replacement, but there's no guarantee of it. It's not officially up yet. And Bezos, just like Elon Musk, just like many other billionaires within the United States, may have their own differing motivations and politics, but are currently in a situation where bending the knee to the existing U.S. government under Trump is basically it's a way for them to preserve their oligarchy status and not make an enemy of the federal U.S. government run by a mafia boss right now. So it's uncertain if Bezos with Project Kuiper would be willing to replace Starlink. And then other options, there's a limited alternative system that I believe Taiwan has one that they've been working on for a while, but I don't think that would be fully viable for Ukraine, and offering that to Ukraine could make Taiwan a more enticing target for a sped up, a quicker timeline for an invasion of their country, especially if Russia starts strongly encouraging China to do so. So yeah, it's a bit of a rock and a hard place situation. Hopefully a confirmed alternative, either domestically created or through another company or country, will come to fruition sometime soon for low-orbit satellite comms. Zelensky has rejected demands from President Donald Trump's administration for $500 billion in mineral wealth from Ukraine to repay Washington for wartime aid, saying the U.S. has offered no specific security guarantees. On Friday, the Ukrainian president said the U.S. and Ukrainian teams were working on an agreement, and Trump said he expects a deal will be signed soon. So let's see, the rest of this is basically what we covered in the previous articles. So this is the last kind of emergency issue that is faced by Ukraine, ways that it's being pressured to try to find peace on unfavorable terms by the Trump regime. Um, One important thing I want to note here, Musk rushed thousands of Starlink terminals to Ukraine to replace communications services destroyed by Russia after its February 2022 invasion. Hailed at the time as a hero in Ukraine, Musk later curtailed access at least once before in the fall of 2022 as he became more critical of Kyiv's handling of the war. Poland's deputy prime minister said on Saturday that his country has been paying for Ukraine's Starlink subscription and will continue to do so. U.S. lawmakers are divided over Trump's efforts to find a quick end to the Ukraine war, and some have raised questions about Musk's rapid-fire efforts to cull thousands of federal workers and shut down federal agencies. Remember, beyond just Ukraine, the United States is experiencing its own domestic. It's not a civil war, you know. There aren't people aren't literally killing each other. It's just a political purge right now. The United States is in a political emergency, whereas Ukraine is in a dire existential emergency for the continued existence of itself as a country and the life and freedom, the security of its people. But the crisis in the United States does not help at all with the crisis in Ukraine. All right. With that, let's go on to some positive news. But before we do that, let's take a look at the chat. All right. We had SAT connection before Starlink and still do. Yep, that's correct. That's correct. There will be satellite connections even if Starlink were to no longer be available in Ukraine. But it comes down to efficiency, and it comes down to a system like Starlink is needed to most efficiently be able to combat Russia. It's not, even without it, I have no doubt that Ukraine will continue to fight and find innovative alternatives. It already is looking for innovative alternatives. But yeah, it's still an important system. All right. I think Sasktel has their own satellite, but don't quote me. I'll have to look up that company. They all bent the knee. I heard Sweden has a system. If Sweden has a system, that's fantastic. Why Ukraine said he is helping work on developing an alternative system. That's fantastic. I'll need to talk with James about that. Cheryl says Republicans could stop all of this. Yeah, they could. They could have stopped this if they had, done what a small handful of them, like Lisa Murkowski and Liz Cheney, did, and spoke up against Donald Trump and tried to maintain some semblance of sanity within their political party. But unfortunately, in an oligarchy, money and power are all that really matter to people. And so, as you said, many bent the knee. Good news, the federal election is looming in Australia. No parties playing footsies with Russia. That is true. Aussie Bugga, that is very true. I do have some concerns with the Australian election, not because of Ukraine as a topic, but more because Australia for a long time is it's had this interesting back and forth between like an American or no, more like a Canadian type-ish system of a two-party system with other independent politicians and third parties that are able to get just enough seats and power to, hold the two big parties accountable. I have been concerned about some of the laws that seem to be strengthening the two big parties and weakening independence and the smaller parties, the little guys. But as a whole, it's still a million times healthier, in my opinion, than, say, the American system. of politics. I do. I'm worried. I hope it doesn't, like the American system, little by little degrade over time, and people don't notice it because it's like little piece by piece, bit by bit, checks and balances being dismantled over many decades, and then people don't even wake up one day and they don't even realize that like all financial limitation caps have been removed for campaign contributions and other stuff like that. Um, I love the way the Kiwis do it. The way the Kiwis run their system, I'm very fond of. But Australia, I would take Australia's system over the United States any fucking day. All right. Marino says, uh, people always are, guys, I still have hope. There's no way Trump or Europe can allow a Russian victory. Like, there's no way. People always argue that Trump does what's good for his interests and his oligarchs, and letting Russia win is not. Um, you gotta remember, Donald Trump doesn't care about the country. His actions show that. He cares about himself and he cares about his circle. Um, that's it. That's it. And he could be living well in America, or he could be living well in, I don't know, Hungary or some other country in Europe that would be willing to take him in as a private citizen after he's done playing pretend as president. Donald Trump doesn't care. Uh, if Donald Trump can make money doing business with Russia, Donald Trump will do that. What we need to do is convince him that doing so would have more negative repercussions for himself as an individual than benefits. And that's the hard part. I think it's very possible because he's not a very cunning man, but he also has a lot of people who are pro-authoritarian and pro-Russian, and he's got a lot of like new generation. Uh, I don't know what other word to use. He's got a lot of Z Americans, a lot of Z Americans who have a lot of views that line up with the Russian political establishment. They don't make up the majority of the Republican Party. They're just one small part of it. But the problem is a lot of them. He surrounds himself with a lot of them, and that's the issue. Breaking through that echo chamber, getting the Republicans who hate Russia to be at his right hand and really plug in with him and push his policy in a different direction, because he's not going to listen to Democrats or independents. That's the important part, and that's the hard part. But I agree with you. At the end of the day, it wouldn't be beneficial for anyone but Russia. Hopefully, the man will change, and hopefully Trump will actually be willing to broker a fair deal with Ukraine. But we'll see. Um. Oh, the German election tomorrow. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Canadian election is this year too. Don't forget about that. We'll see if the conservatives or liberals or who ends up coming out on top from it. All right. Um, what was next? What was next? Back talks with Trump. All right, now we're going to move on to some positive news, but first, let me see if there are any questions in the QA section. Nope, no questions. Oh wait, nope, there's one question. I don't think Ukraine should sign any mineral deal or any shitty peace deal, period. Your thoughts, please, asks Kellen Dunn. I agree with you. I don't think they should. But I'm not the president of Ukraine. And I'm not Ukrainian. And I have friends who have been injured, and I have friends who have died in Ukraine. At the end of the day, let me say this. I personally don't like any of it. And I hope I've always been clear about that in every stream I've ever done. Because when you hear me angry and upset and saying this is bullshit, but at the same time talking about how it's happening, it's not like I'm saying it's happening, oh, and that's a good thing. Like, if you hear me complaining about it, it's because I don't like it. I don't like the fact that Donald Trump is president. I don't like the fact that this shitty peace deal and this horrible exploitative mineral deal is being, forced upon, pressured upon Ukraine. Uh, and I agree with you. It sucks. I don't want any of that. I don't like any of that. And I hope that Ukraine stands strong and resolute and doesn't accept any of it and calls Trump's bluff, and Trump either gets distracted and doesn't care because he's got other things he's dealing with, or he he plays ball with Zelensky instead of acting like he can be all buddy buddy with Russia and there'll be no repercussions. Um, yeah. So my thoughts are, yeah, I agree. Morally, I agree with you. Ukraine should not sign any mineral deal or any shitty peace deal. Period. But realistically, it's up to Zelensky. It's up to the people of Ukraine. It's up to the Ukrainian government. These are the entities that will make this decision, and whose decision at the end of the day it will be. Because think of it like this, guys. Even with all of the indirect soft power political pressure from the United States, Donald Trump could keep ramping things up. He could say, I'm going to start sanctioning Ukraine, or he could say, oh, we're going to remove financial assistance to Ukraine, or we're going to start punishing any European countries, cutting off any European countries that help Ukraine, and he could just be nasty altogether. And Ukraine could still just say, fuck you, we're not going to give up. Um, but at the same time, the things Trump can do can have very real, very serious, very fatal repercussions on the Ukrainian people. And so, again, the Ukrainian people are the only ones who have the right to decide how long they will keep fighting. And I have said this before, and I'll say it again. Whether this war is over in one war, or that sounds a little weird, but whether this sometimes people use the word conflict as like a lesser version of a war. I'm using it as a broader version, as in like multiple wars contained within a conflict. Whether this conflict is over in one war or it gets brought up again for future generations, I don't know. But I do strongly believe that whether it's one war or two or however many, Ukrainians will never stop fighting until their home is united and free again. So, yeah, that's my answer to that. I don't think that they should sign it, but it's not my decision. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I agree with you, Kellen. I mean, Kellen Dunn, you act like I'm saying, uh, you act like I'm saying that this is all a good thing. Like, I mean, what do you want me to say? Do you want me to say everything is going to be better tomorrow and all the problems are going to disappear? I want to find actions that actually benefit Ukraine. I'll be here and I'll talk about the things that I hate about what Donald Trump and his vision for the U.S. are doing and how it's damaging Ukraine. Um, I support Ukraine. Period. Like, I don't know. I don't know what else you want me to say. All right. Let's see. Gonna take a look at a couple more of these. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, yeah. I do appreciate you dropping your questions and dropping your thoughts, Kellen Dunn. And I get it, because I'm also angry and I'm also emotional about all of this. So I appreciate you being here every time and interacting with the whole community. Yeah, thanks for being here. All right, let's see. Okay. All right, where are we at? We are a little more than an hour in. Oh yeah, no. I know. Kellen Dunn's a good guy. Um, I mean, shoot, I've seen him in a lot of chats for a long time. I think for all of us, these are just very difficult times. Um, yeah, these are difficult times right now, and that's why it's important to stick together. All right. All right, next article. This one's from the BBC, so we're finally getting away from Reuters. Yeah, exactly. We are all on edge. All right, this next one is from BBC.com. I'll back Ukraine in talks with Trump, Starmer tells Zelensky. Sir Keir Starmer will discuss the important. Even though it's on BBC, the picture is from Roy. Just can't get away from it today. Damn, dude. Oh, that's funny. Susa says Europe has especially got to stick together. Absolutely. 100%. Sir Keir Starmer will discuss the importance of Ukraine's sovereignty in talks with Donald Trump next week, he said in a call with the country's president. The UK Prime Minister reiterated the UK's ironclad support for Kiev when he spoke to Volodymyr Zelensky on Saturday. The two leaders held their second telephone conversation in 4 days following U.S. President Trump's decision to reopen relations with Russia and seek an end to the war in Ukraine. About 2,000 people marched to the Russian embassy in West London ahead of the third anniversary of Vladimir Putin's full-scale invasion. According to a Downing Street spokesperson, the Prime Minister also said Ukraine must be at the heart of any negotiations to end the war, and it could be sure of the UK's commitment to securing a just and enduring peace to bring an end to Russia's illegal war. Giving details about the phone call, Downing Street said Sir Keir and Zelensky agreed that this was a significant moment for the future of Ukraine and European security at large. Giving details about the phone call, Downing Street said Sir Keir and Zelensky agreed that this was a significant moment for the future of Ukraine. Sorry, I already read that part, and European security at large. Sir Keir also told Zelensky that safeguarding Ukraine's sovereignty was essential to deter future aggression from Russia. 100%. 100%. Guys, if you think this war is bad, imagine if I want you to really think about this. If Ukraine had fallen in 3 days, like people, kind of flippantly proclaimed it would back in 2022, if Ukraine had just folded, like several predicted back then the next countries that would be affected by all this would be Moldova, Romania, Poland, the Baltics. A successful steamrolling of Ukraine from the very beginning would have been a green light to Russia that they could have done the exact same damn thing to anyone else beyond just Georgia or Moldova in their vicinity. Now, Moldova may not be, the issue in Moldova may not be settled, but Ukraine basically was the shield for all of Europe, but most especially for the Moldovans. Georgia, I'll be honest, Georgia is still kind of screwed. That's just because geographically they are the equivalent of a cat trapped in the lion's den. And that lion is really, really fucking hungry. Um, it, yeah, sad but true. Sad but true. Um, but Ukraine really, by standing and fighting against Russia, Ukraine helped to unify more of Europe and help to make it clear that what's been built up, the Western democratic liberal order, it can't just be dismantled by military invasion by an imperial power like Russia. All right. The prime minister added, basically Ukraine has been an inspiration for the free world. I feel confident in saying that. The Prime Minister added he would be progressing these important discussions in the coming days and weeks, including with Trump whilst visiting Washington, D.C. next week. Zelensky said he had a productive talk with Sir Keir, with the pair coordinating our military coordination, joint steps, and engagements for the coming week, which will be very active. In a post on X, he wrote, "The UK and its people are among Ukraine's biggest supporters, and we deeply appreciate this. Right that European nations must take greater responsibility for their security and increase defense spending. We have talked about this for long enough. Now it is time for action. President Trump is also right to grasp the nettle and see if a good peace deal is on the table. Every time I have spoken with him, I am struck by his commitment to peace." Okay, yeah. Alright, whatever. Again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I can't wait to live in a time where Donald Trump is gone from this world and people don't have to pretend to like him anymore. Alright, Sir Keir also said Ukraine must have a voice in negotiations and needed strong security guarantees, adding, "I believe America must be part of that guarantee." In a separate call on Saturday, Sir Keir spoke with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and they agreed Europe must step up for the good of the collective European security, Downing Street said. Alright. And then more of Trump being critical of Europe. And more of Trump being an idiot. Alright. Okay, here's some interesting information. Margaret Owen, 93, accused Trump of appeasement, saying she remembered the Munich Agreement in which Western powers signed a deal with Hitler in the years before the Second World War. Exactly. 100%. It's outrageous. We can't let the world be dictated to by these two impossible people, she said of Trump and Putin. And she is right. That 93-year-old woman is so damn right to put the two of them in the same breath and to describe them as impossible people attempting to dictate to the world. Couldn't have put it better myself. The chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, Emily Thornberry, was among the marchers and argued for a less aggressive approach. The Labour MP said, "We want to influence the U.S. president, and we agree there must be peace. Why shout at him? You'd get a short-term buzz from shouting at Trump, but if you want to influence him, let's try and influence him." And I get it. Again, Donald Trump is the kind of person who infuriates so many people. It's so hard. I'm glad that I am not a career diplomat, everyone. Because whether I were an American diplomat or Canadian diplomat or Mexican diplomat or a European diplomat, it would be so hard for me to bite my tongue in the presence of a man like Donald Trump. And there are plenty of other men like Donald Trump in international diplomacy and geopolitics. I would be the kind of person who is smiling and shaking hands during the day and then aggressively beating a punching bag at night. Because that would be the only way I could keep myself sane if I had a job like that, which I am glad I do not. Okay. Ukraine needs to be at the table. You can't decide the future of Ukraine without Ukraine there, and you can't just capitulate to Putin. They have to be invited into this process by the Americans and Russians. Ukrainian Alexandra Udovenko, who is from Kiev but is studying in the UK, said, "I'm here to protect my country's interests, my country's independence, and my country's choice, and my country's right to be independent of any empire. in this world. Anyway, a bit of good news. Just the UK, and I do have criticism of the UK as a government, but when it comes to the matter of support to Ukraine, the United Kingdom does a pretty damn good job. The UK and also a couple of snags here and there, but Poland has been quite supportive as well. For the most part, Poland, both of those countries um, have been quite vocal and active in support to Ukraine, and I hope that it stays that way. So there's some positive news right there from the UK, and next we're going to go to globalnews.ca. All right. Oh, we have audio clipping. Is the audio in and out for anyone else? Oh, okay. That would explain why I've had a drop all of a sudden. Shoot. Oh, I ran to get over here. Has it been clipping? Guys, give me a show. Has it been clipping in and out for a while or just momentarily like the last 2 or 3 minutes? No issues with audio? Huh. Interesting. Hmm. Shoot, well then I have no idea which part might have been garbled or where the audio might not have been great. Sorry about that, Cheryl. I did run to get over here, and I'm connected with Wi-Fi instead of my. I like to use an Ethernet cable because I get a better connection that way. But if it's been okay, then perfect. But Susa says it's been in and out as well, and for Richard. Huh. That's weird. Next week I'll make sure that next time I'll make sure that I'm on a wired connection. All right. Susa is still having issues with audio. Huh. Okay. Well, next time we'll make sure we're on an Ethernet cable. But all right. Ukraine must be part of peace talks, Trudeau says in call with Zelensky. So, to all Canadians watching, thank you for having decency. Um, thank you for standing up against Trump and his bullshit, for talking about Canada as though it is a state of the US, because it's not. And fuck Donald Trump for ever saying that. Um, thank you for standing with Ukraine to the best of your ability with your resources as individuals and as a country. And yeah, this is from globalnews.ca. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau reaffirmed Canada's position that Ukraine must be included in negotiations to end Russia's full-scale invasion during a call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday, the Prime Minister's office said. The call was held days after the U.S. held a first round of bilateral talks with Russian officials about ending the war, and as U.S. President Donald Trump increasingly attacks Zelensky, rhetoric the White House has refused to walk back. Prime Minister Trudeau reiterated that Canada will always stand in defense of Ukraine and emphasized that there can be no sustainable peace in Europe without security for Ukraine. A readout of the call provided by the PMO said. The leaders stressed that any peaceful end to the conflict must include Ukraine at the negotiating table. Trudeau and Zelensky also discussed efforts to secure a lasting peace that enables a strong, democratic, and prosperous Ukraine. According to the readout. Story continues below. Zelensky wrote on X that he and Trudeau discussed the Canadian Prime Minister's recent meeting with European leaders, as well as continued military support and Russian sanctions. We greatly value Canada's G7 presidency this year and count on its leadership, Zelensky said. The past week has seen a flurry of events that has left Ukraine and European leaders feeling sidelined from talks to end the nearly 3-year-long war, as well as growing concern over Trump's comments about Ukraine. Officials from Washington and Moscow, after holding talks in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. This right here. The United States talking with Moscow in Saudi Arabia. Three countries with histories of human rights abuses walk into a bar. Oh, no, excuse me, a coffee shop, because it's in Saudi Arabia. On Tuesday, said the meeting was a first step and that the U.S.-Russia relationship needed repairing before Ukraine can be brought into future peace negotiations. For news impact... okay. On Wednesday, Trump described Zelensky as a dictator and warned that he better move fast to negotiate an end to the war or risk not having a nation to lead. NATO allies have condemned any questioning of Zelensky's legitimacy as Ukraine's elected leader. The day before that, Trump said Ukraine should have never started the conflict, quote-unquote, which began in 2022 when Russia invaded its neighbor. Ukraine has sought to defend itself from Moscow's onslaught ever since the help with the help of military and financial aid from the U.S., Europe, and Canada. Asked about Trump's hostility Thursday at a press briefing, White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said it reflects the administration's growing frustration with what they see as Zelensky creating roadblocks in the path to peace. Alright, we'll finish this article. His frustration with President Zelensky that you heard is multifold, Waltz said Thursday of Trump. There needs to be a deep appreciation for what the American people and the American taxpayer, what President Trump did in his first term and what we've done since. There's some of the rhetoric coming out of Kiev, frankly, and insults to President Trump that were unacceptable. Hold on a sec. So, this is White House National Security Advisor, one of Trump's goons. Okay. I was about to say, I thought that was someone else that it was quoting. Yeah, okay, well, I'm sorry. That guy can go soak his head for all I care. Zelensky has said the deal asked more of Ukraine than it has received from the U.S. and did not include any specific security guarantees. Waltz, who, as a member of Congress, wrote in a 2023 Fox News op-ed that Russia was responsible for the Ukraine war like Al-Qaeda was to blame for 9/11, didn't directly answer whether he now agrees with Trump that Zelensky is more responsible than Russian President Vladimir Putin. Wow. If Trump actually said that word for word, then it wouldn't surprise me, but also, like I said, the man has no scruples or morals. He also did not respond when asked if Trump views Putin as a dictator. Story continue. Okay, his goal here is to bring this war to an end, period, Waltz said of Trump. The growing tension with Ukraine was on further display Thursday when a planned news conference between Zelensky and General Keith Kellogg, Trump's special envoy to Ukraine for talks in Kiev, was canceled at the last minute. The event was originally supposed to include comments to the media by Zelensky and Kellogg, but was changed to a simple photo opportunity with no statements or questions. The change was requested by the U.S. side, Ukrainian presidential spokesman Serhiy Nikiforov said. Writing on his Telegram channel, Zelensky said the meeting with Kellogg was a good conversation, lots of details. He said they discussed security guarantees for Ukraine and the return of Ukrainian prisoners from Russian custody. We can and must make peace reliable and lasting so that Russia can never return with war again, he wrote. Ukraine is ready for a strong, truly beneficial agreement with the President of the United States on investments and security. Zelensky later wrote on X that his meeting with Kellogg restores hope. European leaders, including the heads of Britain and France, have openly discussed a Europe-led security guarantee for Ukraine as part of a peace agreement, which the Trump administration has said it supports. All right. So, a lot of this just kind of focused on the U.S. toward the end, if I'm being completely honest. So, it's nice that Justin Trudeau said that. What I want to know is, where is the increased military expenditure on Canada's side? Because I can tell you this much, I have plans to make donations within my power to Canadian Armed Forces. I want to know what the Canadian government is going to do to really push back, even if it doesn't have the same kind of weight and might as the U.S., to really make it clear that it's not going to be pushed around diplomatically or militarily by either Russia, by either Putin or Trump. So I hope that we see an increase in domestic military expenditure by Canada and a willingness to provide military assistance, medical assistance, training, send soldiers to train, or train, either directly train or train with Ukrainian soldiers. These are the kinds of announcements that I want to see. So I do appreciate the positive rhetoric, the words, but words are just that, words. I want to see more action, and I hope that we do see more of that from Canada. All right, back to this. Oh, Susa says she has. You have proper sound now? Okay. Richard says any Muppet could stop the war. It's doing it in a just and lasting way that is the hard part, and I really don't think that Trump is up to the task. I agree. Trump and the GOP are a disgrace to freedom, democracy, and humanity. I 100% agree with Kellen Dunn on that as well. Okay. Back to see if, let's see, another question. Kellen, here's a question. I'm so ashamed, infuriated to be American right now, thanks to Orange Kremlin lapdog and his spineless GOP cronies. U.S. reputation is damaged forever. No ally can trust us again. Yeah, it's bad. I mean, it is. I'm not going to mince words. It's bad. It's really, really bad. But nothing lasts forever. I mean, think of it like this. Back when it still existed, the British Empire, you know. Well, okay, no. What are some good? Hold on. Let me think. Let me think of a proper analogy real fast. The United States is a country where human rights abuses used to be so rife that many people, many non-white people could literally be lynched and beaten to death and left out on public display as a warning to others when trying to stand up for their civil rights. And that's a problem that many countries have had throughout their history all around the world, but it's one that was very prominent at a certain point in U.S. history, and then eventually that practice came to an end. That brutal, barbaric, inhuman practice. And it wasn't that long ago. It was less than 100 years ago. And the U.S. was able to mend its relations with other countries. The United States backed the South African government, the apartheid government back in the day. That wasn't too long ago. And then was able to a certain extent, normalize relations a bit a little bit after the fall of that government with the new ANC government in South Africa. The United States has had a lot of if you want to talk about a love-hate relationship, the United States has had a lot of that with Mexico over the centuries, over the decades, and especially over the centuries. The United States will come out of this, and its reputation will, I believe, be restored. But that can only happen if democracy survives in America. Russia is a country that doesn't have friends. Russia has neighbors who will smile and shake hands with Russia because they don't want Russia to try to punch them in the face, and they don't want to have to get their friends together and pile on top of Russia just, in order to basically to be safe from a madman. China is very similar when it comes to the Philippines, when it comes to other countries that have disputes with it in the South China Sea, and of course Taiwan and Japan. And the United States is unique in the sense that it's got plenty of countries that feel the same way about it, especially in South America, about how it interacts with them and how it treats them and how it has historically done things like throw coups and meddle in their affairs. But those countries, with the exception of Mexico, are not, and Cuba, are not neighbors. They are not geographically next to the United States. They are very, very far away. And it's only because the U.S. has an extensive Navy and Air Force that it even has power projection down there. The United States will come out of this if democracy survives. And the only way it will survive is if Americans get out into the streets, if they continue to loudly let their representatives know exactly how they feel about the quote-unquote self-crowned king, Donald Trump, and their disgust with him. It'll only happen if democracy will only survive if Americans have courage. If Americans have courage and do what's right, then the United States will see its reputation restored one day. If Americans allow themselves to be atomized and become serfs within their own country, then it will have the same fate as Russia. Americans, don't let your country become Russia. Stand up and fight for your country. That's what I have to say. But I agree with you, Kellen Dunn. It is infuriating. And every time I see anything about Donald Trump and his cacistocracy and his more cunning authoritarian allies, it's sickening for me too. Okay, enough with the news articles. We're an hour and a half into the stream. All right, what are a few things I'm going to do right now? Yeah, although relations will improve after Trump, the market still will be shifted away from the U.S. That's very possible. The U.S. has certain advantages, so I think the market will bounce back, but I don't think it'll be the same as it was before, because long-term trust in the U.S., well, I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know. Never say never. We'll have to see. There's more to it than just political stability. Geography does also play a part in why people typically have faith in the U.S. stock market, because unless there's a literal North American continental war or civil war within the United States, it is seen as a more or less relatively stable place. But then again, China hasn't had a civil war, and it doesn't look like it will anytime soon. Russia could. Russia very much could. We'll see in the future what happens. But there's a reason why Russia is seen as as a sick man, as a bad place to invest money for multiple reasons. Um, the U.S. bounced back like many countries from the Great Depression, and then from other massive events like its own civil war. Um, in the short term, I think we'll see the market shift away from the U.S. Whether or not the U.S. can court those markets back, that's going to be something that just falls squarely upon um, American labor, American intellectual services that it can offer the world, economic strength, and if it uses its resources in a smart manner. So there's a lot of factors at play. Anyway, all right, next thing. All right, let me turn this off for a sec and turn these back on. Where are you? There's this, and there's this. Oh, and we got a donation. Thank you. So we got a donation for Ukraine. We were at like 6,000 something. Now we're at 8,681.92 hryvnia. Thank you to whoever donated. I don't know if you mentioned it in chat, whoever it was, but thank you very much. Now what I'm gonna do before I run out of time, because I got so into what I was saying, I forgot that I had I had to do I have to get going. Today has sucked. I've had to run from one thing to another all day. And I've got to go to another thing because I'm the only one who has a key to get inside the building, and 2 months, 3 months, 2 or 3 more months. So then I'll hopefully physically be in a different place and have less. Without going into detail, I keep getting asked by people to take on leadership positions for different projects and initiatives, and some of them are Ukraine related, some of them are related to other countries and what's going on in those countries. And yeah, I just need to learn to delegate more. I put too much onto my own damn plate. But I'm gonna shut up because I'm not someone who likes to complain about stuff like that. Um, if I take something on, then I see it through hell or high water. All right. Okay. All right. First thing I'm gonna do is make sure this works and that I can do a quick donation. I'm gonna make donations to both of our fundraisers. If you'd like to join me, then just check for the one for the 110th Mechanized Brigade is always in the description, and you should see it from Nightbot being posted automatically in the chat. Let me grab the one for Stream Elements, because don't I don't think I put that in the description of the chat yet. One sec. You know what? This is going to be the easiest way to do this. Let me just go grab it from over here, and I'll put it into the chat, and I'm going to make my donations. I'm going to do $50 toward each, because we're still only at like $36 toward the radios for the Taiwan Civil Defense Force. All right. Oh, and while I'm doing this, let me also mention that the our most recent video that's been put up, which was sent by Anton, uh, the version on YouTube of the, as an example of what drones we send to Anton and to the Ukrainian Armed Forces, 110th Mechanized Brigade, some of the work that they do, aside from reconnaissance, shows a mission where it's used against an enemy Russian soldier, an orc soldier. Now the one on YouTube, so it doesn't get taken down, and my channel doesn't end up running awry of YouTube, is the safe for YouTube version, but the unedited version showing the aftermath of the attack will be on Discord, so keep an eye out for that. That'll be posted on Discord quite soon, the unedited version, and that'll be in the 18 and over war coverage channel is where I'll put that. All right. Copy. Okay, and here we go. Okay, so I'm going to pin the one for Taiwan because I haven't automated it to post over and over again yet. Oh, dang. Is it too... It's too long. Okay, well, hold on. Come on. I did not mean to play that. There we go. Okay, now I can actually do my donations. Okay. Okay. Ooh, how do I make this work? Really wish I had an easier way to do this, but I think I could do this from my phone. One sec. Okay, here we go. And there we go. Okay, so there's 50 for Taiwan. And now, let me do... Oh, crap. Okay, well, hopefully Anton will see it because I'm gonna send the 50 to him, and as you know, I typically have to wait. I can't do it nicely like I do with the Taiwan donations. I can't just send directly to. I have to send it over PayPal to Anton, and then Anton updates the Ukrainian monobank. So let me send that to him right now. All right. And again, if anyone would care to join me, please make donations to the monobank or PayPal. Oh, shoot, speaking of which, I should have. Where is it? Have I been so busy that I didn't actually get it up and working again? Dang it. Because usually I would have the if you recall, on the top, I would have the pop-ups that would show the PayPal donations for Ukraine for our long-term fundraiser. But it's been a second, so I'm needing to remember. Oh, here it is. Why is it not appearing? Oh, is it covered by something? Hold on. Okay, well, that's annoying. And something that I'm gonna deal with later on. Anyway, for right now, I'll just put the details. You can find the details for donating to Anton in the description of the video. And I'm gonna send the 50 right now. And we're gonna get that fixed before the next time, because I have the bars working. I have everything is working except for those. I can even put the ticker back up, even though we're not using Buy Me a Coffee right now anymore. I'll get those alerts at the top of the screen working again before the next before the next time. All right. With that, I am 10 minutes before I'm about to be late for something. So once again, I have to go run. Thank you for being here, everyone. Thank you for standing with Ukraine. Thank you for standing with Taiwan. Thank you for standing with freedom-loving Americans and Europeans, those who oppose Trump, those who oppose Orban, those who oppose Fico, and I know it's actually Fico, but I'm going to keep saying Fico because to me, he might as well be a piece of fecal matter. Thank you. Please continue to support Ukraine. Please continue to support the free world, and whether it's by writing a letter, getting out on the street and peacefully protesting, getting out on the street and facing down cops who try to intimidate you with arrest or beat you or shoot you with high pressure water cannons, like what's happened a whole lot in Republic of Georgia recently. Thank you for doing all within your power. Even if it's just making a monetary donation or taking some time out of your day to join a call campaign or to send some medicine or some warm clothing or medical supplies to help civilians. It all helps and it's greatly appreciated. I promise we're going to try to make sure to keep this consistent. No matter how much I travel, no matter how busy I am, I will always make time for Ukraine, for this stream especially, in particular. And I will see you all again soon. Please keep a lookout for more videos, and Slava Ukraini.